So again, I'm Sharonetta McIntyre. I go by Shay with the Hub office, and I am in the business development and marketing part of our organization. Let's see. Okay, I see I had to respond to a little prompt over here. All right. So with that, we're going to jump right into the content. We're going to run through the information as it relates to how do you get Hub certified. So I'll do an overview. There's a three-step process, basically. So I'm going to walk you through what are the different parts that are necessary in order for you to complete the process to apply to become Hub certified. We'll look at required documentation. We'll talk a little bit about once you're certified, then how is it that people locate you? I want to talk a little bit about just general finding opportunities and developing your business, and then briefly about doing business with the state, just kind of some tips to help you in that process. And then I'll share with you a few upcoming events that are scheduled. I want to start off by talking just a little bit about some of the different acronyms. This is a space where there are lots of acronyms that you may run into. And so if you don't already know, you'll find that there are different levels of certifications that may be applicable for your particular business. So we kind of have statewide certification is really the Hub certification. And so the term that you may hear as you're interacting and going through that process is the SWUC certification or application. That stands for the Statewide Uniform Certification. And so the Hub office does in fact manage that. And then at the local level, you may hear some terms such as MBE or WBE or MWBE, and that's for minority and or woman-owned business enterprise. Another term you may hear in this space, a small disadvantaged business. That typically is relating to the size of a business, and that can be determined based on the revenues and or the number of employees that a particular business has. A DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, that is something that is specific to doing business with the Department of Transportation. And so whereas the Hub certification, excuse me, the Hub certification is going to apply when you're talking about state agencies, community colleges, the universities. And then again, DBE certification applies for the Department of Transportation. And so the next few terms or next couple of terms there, the service disabled veteran-owned small business, that is a federal level certification. Same thing for the WOSB, the woman-owned small business certification, that is federal. And so those certifications are managed by the Small Business Administration. Then you may have kind of industry level type certifications. And so a couple of the national ones that we interface with, there's the WBENC, which is Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and then also the National Minority Supplier Development Council is another organization. Now, those last couple of ones, whereas all the top part of the list, those are free certifications. You just have to do the work to get those. Those last two that are listed on the page, WBENC and CVMSDC, those are ones where you would pay if you choose to go through their certification process. All right, so now we're going to focus on the Hub certification for the rest of the time that we have together. And so again, thank you, Nathaniel, for monitoring the questions, and you can ask those as we go. I'm perfectly okay with that. And we'll spend the next few minutes here just making sure that you understand the process and get your questions answered. So the Hub office basically is responsible for promoting diversity and inclusion in the state government procurement and contracting process. The ways in which we do that are that we manage Hub certifications. There's advocacy and accountability that is established with using Hub businesses. We have business development, where we really are looking to help businesses understand strategies. Maybe they need resources in order to continue to build capacity within their business. So we can direct you to resources and really kind of help you in that process. And then last but not least, a key function that we have is to collect the spending reports. And so for the goods and services that are purchased by the state, as well as construction dollars that are spent, there are over, I think, a total of 500 entities that have to report their numbers in, and they do that on at least a quarterly basis. This just gives you some idea. So basically, the state has a goal to spend at least 10% of their dollars with hub firms. And so what you can see here is that for construction spending, last year, we had about 20% of that spending that occurred with hub firms. And so the amount of that money was somewhere around $154 million was the money that was spent. On the goods and services side, though, what you can see is that we really only achieved about 5%. The total number of dollars spent with hubs is higher, even though it's 5%, because the total spending for goods and services across the state is over $8 billion. So we have continued opportunity. And then, of course, with the disparity study that has been done, and recommendations are in process with that work, then you may see some adjustments in these numbers based on that as well. This gives you an idea of some of the types of services and or commodities that the state purchases. The state purchases an awful lot of stuff. And so we also offer, if you choose to become HUB certified, which we hope you will, we also have a webinar that is presented about once a month that is Purchasing 101 to really help you to understand how to do business with the state of North Carolina. And so it's a 2.5-hour workshop that takes you really through the process and kind of how things work. So here, I just want to give you a snapshot of the types of, some of the services and commodities that you may not necessarily think about, in terms of what it is that the state of North Carolina buys. Of course, the list is much more comprehensive than this. However, it does give you some indication of some of the things that the state does purchase. Now, what is a hub firm? So a hub firm basically is a business. Of course, you have to be a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. And then as far as the categories of certification, the minority certification includes if you are Black, Hispanic, Asian American, American Indian are the categories that the state has identified. Whether you're a female-owned business, a disabled business owner, and kind of the last category is disadvantaged. So if a business doesn't fit in one of those other categories, but they can prove that they are socially and or economically disadvantaged, then that is an opportunity for them to become HUB certified. The business has to be owned, operated, and controlled at least 50%, 51% or more by one or more of the categories above. And then we have a couple of categories that HUB does not actually certify. They do self-certification. In that case, if there's a disabled business enterprise or a nonprofit work center for the blind and severely disabled, those are also things that the HUB office tracks as self-certification. So to start the certification process, you would go to our website. You can easily just Google NC Hub, HUB. There's also a HUD organization, which is Housing and Urban Development. That is not us. We're the hub office. And so you can easily Google. But of course, these slides will be available for you as well so that you can follow along. And then Nathaniel is also going to make the recording available to you so that if you need to go back, and listen to any segment, then you're able to do that. So, excuse me, whew, allergies have kicked up a little bit, so bear with me. The hub certification is a 3-step process. And so the first thing that you're going to do is to register in the electronic vendor portal system. That is an online system. And so there's a link there. You go in, you fill in some very basic information about your business. And within that process, you're going to identify that you would like to become a hub vendor. So the second step then of the process is that you need to fill out the actual application for hub certification. And so that's step number 2 there. So you're going to provide some of the same information you did online, but some additional information in an application, and of course, sign and date it. And then you'll also see a list of required documents that go along with that. And so that, again, is just to help us to make sure that what you say is true on your application. We have backup documentation for those things. What you'll need when you do the EVP registration, of course, you have to have internet access. You will need a federal tax ID or an EIN number. And so whether you have an EIN number for your business, or if you're a sole proprietor, for example, and you use your Social Security number as your taxpayer ID number, that really is totally up to you. Whichever of those you choose to use, you'll need to provide it. Even if you're a sole proprietor, you can always still get an EIN number so that you don't have to use your Social Security number just for the protection of your personal information. But again, that's a business decision, totally up to you. As far as the EVP system, it doesn't care as long as it has a valid number. And then, of course, a valid email address, because once you do that registration, then you're going to get an email to say, hey, is this really you? Do a validation, and then you're able to continue on in the process. There's some information that's available online if you need assistance with that. But at the end, I also will give you the contact information for the electronic vendor portal. You can contact them either directly by phone. One of the really nice things is that it's one of the few places where often when you call, you actually get a live person on the line. So they will help you kind of walk you through the process. But if it's something you need to do offline, there's also an email address for you to be able to use. Okay, so here is the contact information again, the login information for the electronic vendor portal. You can register if for some reason you started the process at one point but never completed it, then you may have to call in to get some assistance to get past that point. But either way it goes, there's the help desk information for you so that you can get the assistance in going through that process. Now, what can you register for when you're in the EVP system? Again, this kind of step number 1 online. There's the interactive purchasing system. That is where, based on what you tell the EVP system about the type of business that you have, whether you're goods and services or whether you do construction related things, you get to specify that as you go through the process. And based on that, once you're set up in that system, anytime there are solicitations where the state is looking for firms to provide different types of services, you'll get notification of that coming through the IPS system. That is an electronic notification that you will receive. The second thing that you'll want to do is to make sure that you select that you want to do the Historically Underutilized Business certification. So again, that just kind of kicks off the process that will then let the hub office know that you have put some information in and you expect to continue the process to become hub certified. There is a third piece, which is totally optional, but you are encouraged, in fact, to complete the process for, excuse me, for e-procurement. And basically what that allows you to do is, if you do business with the state, you can receive the paperwork for those electronically. Now, the thing about it is, if you are a commodities-based business, then you will get a 1.75% fee on the purchase orders. But again, that's only going to show up if you actually do business with the state. Some people feel like it's better because it is an electronic way rather than trying to do things by paper, using mail or using fax systems. That 1.75% fee is actually what they use in order to provide the support for that system. Okay. All right. So as you start in the hub certification process, so you'll see down the left-hand side of the screen where it says hub certification. So you're going to start the process there. And then basically you will fill in some information about your business. And so that's where you will determine what kind of category you fit in. So you'll see the minority, then it kind of goes down. If you're not a minority, then if you're a woman-owned business, then you select that. So basically, whichever category applies first for your business is the category in which your business will be classified. Okay. Then on the next screen, basically, you're going to have to go in and you see that circle to create new. This is where you're going to put in the ownership of your business. So if there's just one owner, you put your information in, you're 100% owner. If there are multiple people that own the business, then you'll have to create a record for each person that is an owner in the business. Because remember, when we look at it, you have to have 51% or more owned, operated, and controlled by one of those hub categories in order to be approved to be a hub firm. And then when you kind of get to the end of that, you see that little green message there that says success, hub certification information has been saved, and that lets you know you can kind of continue on in the process. Now, there is something new here in the system, and this sourcing contracts information, as we understand it, is now something that will be required because Purchase and Contracts Organization, which is responsible for the interactive purchasing system where the state solicits for all of the formal type purchases that it makes, they're in the midst of some system changes. And so the sourcing contracts information you will also need to fill out as you do the certification, because depending on the kind of business that you are, you'll need to have that in order to submit bids in the system. So again, at the end of it, you want to get down to that summary that you see on the left side of the page. You want to get down to there and see that message in green that says success. You have successfully registered, for hub and IPS. Okay. Now, there are 3 potential applications that you would use to become hub certified. And so you choose the one that is the easiest for your business to utilize. So we have the 5-page SWOT, we call it again, the SWOT application. That's 5-page application, you're given all the details about your business. However, if you already have a certification, In the second one that's listed there, let's say that you're already certified with the Department of Transportation. Then we have what we call a reciprocity application. It's just a one-pager with a few documents, required documents that you would submit. And so that would allow us to certify you as a hub business using your NCDOT certification. The third thing that's listed there, the NC Hub reciprocity application, that's a one-pager. And actually, let me just keep on rolling because you'll actually see the details on those. And I'm going to run through these. I know this print is too small for you to see it. This is the 5-page SWOC application. And so you'll present the information about your business, again, using kind of the full-blown format. However, if you are, again, NCDOT certified, then you would be able to use the NCDOT reciprocity. There are some other ways that, again, based on a prior certification, and these are the things that are listed here. So if you have, well, first of all, there's what we call a neighboring state requirement. So the certification from the other organization has to be either based here in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, or Virginia in order to qualify. But the ones that you see listed on the right-hand side of the page there, so if you have a small business administration certification for either 8A or a woman-owned small business, then that allows you to do, again, a short application in order to become Hub certified. For Department of Veteran Affairs, the SDVOSB certification, or the national organization certifications, either through NMSDC or WBANC, would also qualify you for those. Okay, so that's just a picture of the, actually, of the reciprocity applications. And so just we'll help guide you to whichever one is the most appropriate for you. Now, let's talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about required documents. So one of the things to keep in mind is that for whatever required documents are asked for as a part of the form that you're filling out, you want to make sure that you provide every piece of information, or in some cases, you may be able to write something that says, hey, this really does not apply for my business, but you have to specifically address every single thing that is asked of you. We can't make any, assumptions about why a particular thing may not apply for your business. So the required documents are going to be based on the type of business that you are. So if you're a sole proprietor, there's certain things you need to provide. If you're a corporation, certain things, or an LLC, certain things that you'll need to provide. We do ask that you submit your documentation within 30 days of doing the EVP registration. And then that gives us an opportunity really to go ahead and get you certified. This is the list of required documents for a corporation. And so, you need to have your articles of incorporation. If you are a stock company, then you need to provide that information. If the business was purchased and then you bought the business, as an example, there's going to be a transfer ledger that comes into play. So you've got to have minutes of the first and the most recent board meetings, and then of course any bylaws and or amendments that have been made by your corporation. If you're an LLC, then we do need to have articles of incorporation, and you do need an operating agreement. So even in the case of just having a single owner, you need to have something that says what happens to this business, if I'm no longer able to operate this business. If you have a partnership, then of course we need the partnership agreement. if you're applying as a franchise, then we also need whatever the franchise agreement is. And we have to be careful because in some cases, a franchise, there are different types of franchise agreements that may come into play. And because of the 51% operated and controlled by the firm, if there are certain decisions that you can't make for your firm, and I guess the responsibility of certain decisions are corporate decisions. If you're a franchise, you may not be able to be Hub certified. So we have to pay attention to the fine print in that instance. So how to submit your application and documents, especially during this time. The easiest way to get those documents to us is via email. You do want to pay attention in some cases, just for the protection of personal information. There may be certain documents. So for example, if you were sending in a bank statement of some sort, then you're going to want to redact the account number for those documents. And so, you can kind of black out that information on it before you send it up. Or if you're sending something and you are using your social security number, then, you want to maybe block out all but the last 4 digits of that number. So you can also fax information to us. That's there. You can mail it into our office. You can hand deliver it if that works best for you. However, right now you do need to schedule. And so I'll give you all that information again on a summary slide at the end, so you can determine what works best for you. Now, if you are eligible, based on the information that comes in with your application, then you will actually get a letter that is saying your company has been certified. It will show the start date of the certification, the category in which you were certified. And then it basically says also, if there are any changes, of course, to the business, then we require that you notify us within 30 days. So let's say you sell your business, or let's say you have a new partnership agreement, you no longer meet that 51% or more eligibility, then you're required to give that to us in writing. The Hub certification is good for 4 years from the time that you are certified. So every 4 years is when you need to renew that certification, or as I say, if something changes within the business that would affect your eligibility. Let's talk for just a minute about, for as far as finding Hub vendor information. So once you are certified as a Hub firm, your information goes into our Hub vendor database. That database is public information. And so, of course, limited information that's shared about your company. But this is where firms, it could be agencies, it may be prime contractors. In some cases, we even have private companies that will come in and search for Hub firms that they may want to do business with. And so your information, of course, is stored there. People can come in. There are different categories of information. They can search for you by where you're located. So a number of different options for when different agencies or organizations are looking for Hub firms. Some of the things to keep in mind as a Hub firm that really are helpful for you in the ongoing process of really making best use of your Hub certification. Of course, you want to maintain your EVP login and password, and just any changes, especially the contact information, as far as, when we need to reach out to you. We do, our primary mode of communication is going to be email. And so, sometimes a business will start, you're using a Gmail account. and then you end up getting your own domain. And so now you've got a new email address. Be sure to come back and update those things so that we have the best contact information for you. Review and make changes to commodity codes as needed. So let's say that, and this could be based on a number of things. It could be maybe as an example where you're expanding your business. And so now there are different mixes of products and or services that you're providing. And so in that case, you're going to want to make sure that the commodity codes that are attached to your business really are representative of the work that you do. So that the IPS system will generate information that's the most relevant for your business. Now, sometimes when you go into EVP, depending on the type of service or product that your company produces, sometimes it's a little tough to figure out where you really fit with those commodity codes. So while they work well for some businesses, they don't work well for every single business. So sometimes you may set up, some extra commodity codes just to make sure that the things that your business does are captured. Maybe you get an overload on those things. And so then you want to come back and kind of narrow those things down at some later point. So you certainly have all the opportunity to do that. Now, once you're in that hub database, as I said, then there will be times that an agency or prime contractor or whomever it is may reach out to you via email to say, hey, do you want to bid on this particular project? And so even if you're not in a position to bid for whatever reason, always still acknowledge that you received it and have some kind of point of contact of communication back to that firm, because the reality is that still when it comes down to doing contracting, you still have to, in many cases, build a relationship with the different agencies, primes, whatever the case may be. So you really do want to take advantage of every opportunity to have a point of contact with somebody in the process, so that as you continue to build your business, build, your reputation and help people to know who you are, then you can build on those points of contact that you're making. So finding opportunities and developing your business. Again, you're going to look for the IPS notifications that are coming via email. You can also, now, if your business is one where the products or services that you have don't necessarily nicely fit into any of those commodity codes, a better strategy for you may be to periodically just go out to the IPS website, and you can do keyword searches, or if you have a particular product that you know is most likely to be used by a particular agency. Let's say that you have some kind of a safety product. Then you might say, well, hey, Department of Public Safety probably is the best place that I need to connect in. You can go to the IPS website and just look at some of the things that Department of Public Safety is doing. And even if they are not soliciting exactly for what it is that you're providing, begin to get a sense of what are some of the things that are important to them, so that some cases you may have to kind of build your own strategy for how you might kind of get into that pipeline. And then you can check the Hub Office website for bid opportunities. There's a link on that site. You do have to go look for them, though. There's not an automated link in terms of the capability for that system. But those bid opportunities are places where people may be looking for Hub vendors, maybe as a subcontractor. Because if somebody's looking for a subcontractor, that's not the kind of thing you're going to see directly coming through the IPS system. Those are ones that you're more likely to pick up by looking at the bid opportunities. And then, excuse me, you can also consider, we have a business development assessment. And so that's where primarily you would connect with me, but it's where I try to get some understanding of where you are within your business. And then we look at developing some kind of plans and strategies for how you would get into government contracting space. And so that again is something, the application, or not application, the assessment form is also available on our website. And so you can fill that out. It's a fillable form, and then I'll put you in the queue in order to get you scheduled. All right, so what are some of the things that you can think about in terms of networking and marketing your business? Because again, it comes down to, in many cases, there's still the relationship building and really promoting your business. Because I mean, the reality is that most of the businesses that operate, there are lots of other competitors that are in the same space. And so it's not going to be just a matter of, you know, kind of getting Hub certified. There is work beyond that. So you do want to promote your business certification. Again, we talked about the fact that you want to find and respond to relevant bid opportunities. Any networking opportunities. Now, of course, most of the networking these days is via webinar. And so, you know, but there are various platforms that many organizations are utilizing these days that specifically have a networking component in there. So you can kind of see who's attending, you know, who's there, and just again, make every opportunity to connect with folks that may help you to connect into the process. So there are examples, pre-bid meetings. Particularly if you're in construction, then some of those projects have pre-bid meetings that are associated with them. Even if you're not planning on bidding on a particular opportunity because it's not yet right for you, it still a lot of times is an opportunity to kind of see who's in the room. Most of the time, you know, you can either see based on how people have logged in. Some of those pre-bid meetings may ask people to identify who they are. So again, just try to use it as a point of contact. The State Construction Conference is another one. Now, it was virtual last year. I think it's still virtual this year, but that will open up again. But even now, the State Construction Conference, there's a cost associated with that, but sometimes there are networking events that are attached to a major event such as that you can attend for free if you're not ready yet to invest those dollars. So just be on the lookout for any of those, you know, types of opportunities. And then again, depending on the space that you're in and where it makes the most sense for you to try to connect into the process, then you want to have, for example, a capability statement on hand that really is a one-pager, kind of summarizes your business. I call it the government-centric resume format. And so capability statement is something that's helpful for you to have. And that then helps you among other things that you will do to really market your business. Are there, I didn't ask if there were any questions. I should have taken a minute. We don't have too much more to go here, but are there any particular questions at this point that we should address? If not, we'll catch them on the back end.
There's two questions. One is if there's a specific order that should be followed as to getting certified in various of these types of certifications, or
So there's not an absolute order, okay? In general, though, what I would suggest, I mean, once you've done a basic certification package, it may not be that much more, to kind of do the next one. But generally for the state of North Carolina, you're going to start with the hub certification, because then what the hub certification allows you to do is within the local municipalities where they have their own funding that comes in, they've got dollars to spend. They typically have a registration process that is based on the hub certification. Now, that's not 100% true in every case, but in most cases, that's the way that the local municipalities work. And so do the hub certification, then look at what are the best municipality type registrations that you want to do. And then I would say after that is when, you would really want to focus more then on the federal certifications, because often, and it's not 100% true, but often in doing federal work, they're looking for past performance that demonstrates you already have some knowledge of doing government contracting. So that would be the path. If you really are going to lay out a path, that would be my suggestion to you.
Wonderful. I think that answers the question. There was also a comment about nonprofit. You mentioned a nonprofit could self-certify. What does that mean, and how does that help a nonprofit? Okay,
so now that is only for that particular type of entity in general. So that's really for the blind and severely disabled, and that's an enterprise type certification. So we do not have a certification just for nonprofit businesses. Okay, so the hub certification in general is for profit only. Okay, all right. Okay, so bid, this just kind of gives you a high level of the bid or proposal submission methods. And so the system IPS is really going to give you the information that's needed in order to detail this process. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because what you will see is if you're going to bid on something in IPS, you might see something that says NC bids is where you have to do that. There's this new NCEP sourcing option that's coming into play. And so you'll have to make sure that you have whatever the registrations are. But as you go through the signing up for the electronic vendor portal, they will help you make sure that you have what you need in that system so that when it's time to submit a bid, you're in position to do that. Now, some of the bids are not electronic, they're still being emailed to people. So the key thing is just always pay attention to whatever that bid or proposal says as far as how you submit it, because it will be expressly identified as a part of that communication. Okay. So just a few tips for submitting a solicitation response, whether it's a bid or a proposal. Of course, as I say, you've got to read it carefully because there are differences that may be there from one solicitation to the next. And so you just got to be sure that whatever it is that you do is clearly in line with that. Of course, paying attention to words like must, shall, required, mandatory. Those are the kinds of things that have to be a part of that submission, when it is initially submitted. And so again, you'll find out more about some of these things if you sign up for our Purchasing 101 workshop. Don't assume that the state has any prior knowledge of your company, products, or services. And so even though you're registered as a vendor with the state, those are the kinds of things that you want to be, explicit about. And it really is an opportunity for you to kind of toot your horn and to really help folks to understand how your business, like what sets you apart from some of the other companies that provide the exact same types of products or services that you do. And of course, with every solicitation, there's going to be a primary contact person that's listed on there, contract administrator. There's going to be a summary of here's the schedule associated with this particular opportunity. So there's a time where the solicitation is released. There's a time for the Q&A, and you have to make sure that you follow all those things to make sure that if there are any questions that need to be answered in order to help you prepare the package that you're submitting, you want to ask those sooner versus later. Okay, just a couple of things here as far as some upcoming events that we have. Hub is doing a First Thursdays series. And so tomorrow we have the SBA with us, and they're going to be sharing whatever updates they have related to economic relief. And then we also have a contact from the IRS that's going to be talking about tax credits that are available to businesses. There's some other Hub certification workshops that are set up. The Purchasing 101 that I mentioned, that June 16th, Hub vendor orientation training for Hub vendors. So you can sign up for that and attend that. And then we also have a Black Business Forum that's coming up on the 25th. And so that's going to be a huge event for us across the state. And so the registration is live for that one as well. I've got our website that's listed there out to the right. And so you can go there, you can click to see, and the links for registration are there. That is our contact information. So again, just kind of summing up, ways to contact us, probably that last block that's on the page there with the email address and our phone number is going to be best. EVP information is there at the bottom. And with that, that's all I have. Are there any other questions that folks have at this point?
There was a few questions on the stuff you just mentioned. So if you can share the presentation with me, I'll share that with them.
Okay.
I'll also include those the links in the email I send out, just so you guys have that available, and you can get in contact with them or do some further research or participate in this 101 class, which is sounds like a good idea. I don't have any questions at this moment, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask questions or clarify something. Put it in the chat if you want to.
I'm going to take my screen down here.
I also put our contact info in the chat if you guys want to collect that. And like I said, I'll send out an email, so you'll have my contact. You can reach out to me as well for any questions, and I can forward them, or I can get that information if we have it around.
So just out of curiosity, what are some of the types of businesses that are represented here on the line that are looking at certification? You type in the chat or unmute and just kind of say what kind of business you have.
So I can share. I'm starting a professional organization and productivity consulting business. So it is for, there's 3 segments of business that I'm looking at. Everyday residential, helping folks with their closets, pantries, rooms, playrooms, bathrooms, getting it organized. And then looking at some small business, so helping to organize stock rooms, supply closets, filing systems, and to really help employees and employers with productivity. And then the third leg of the business is really more about transitional. So moving, unpacking, bringing a baby into the home, maybe downsizing, families when they're going through estate, so things like that. But within the small business, I'm thinking that there's probably some opportunity there as well for maybe on a larger scale, that we could definitely be a part of this organization.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other types of businesses. We're going to stay inside our time window here.
Yeah, so thank you. The business that I'm looking to start is going to be a 3-pronged business. It's for consulting or technology services, coaching for underserved populations who want to be able to get into technology, as well as creating technical content. So I want to be able to create training as well for different companies.
Okay, great. I see property manager and human resources over in the chat box. And of course, you've got great resources with the Women's Business Center in terms of working with businesses, and lots of resources to help, whether you're a startup or whether you're, kind of an early stage and or seasoned business. So lots of
Sure.
good resources.
I'd like to go ahead and share about our business as well. So we actually are a business. It's called Thin Gold Line, and we developed a product that goes under police officers' bulletproof vests to help them be more comfortable, so that they use them all the time instead of not using them. So we solved a few problems for them, and we're actually in the middle of launching that product now. So.
Okay.
Very
All
cool.
right. Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a quick question. I mean, just because of questions I've been asked, you mentioned the IPS, registering for the IPS system first. And can you stop there? And are you kind of involved and able to bid as just a normal company? Is that how that works, or is it?
So that's a great question. And so you can. So IPS, when you do that initial EVP step, it's not a requirement that you go through and register as a hub. However, if you're awarded, we have no way of knowing that you're a hub firm. So those dollars are not going to get counted toward our hub spending. So we do request that you complete the process and allow us to be able to identify you as a hub firm. But would it stop you from being able to do anything? No. Once you do that initial registration, you'll get the information. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for having us here today from the Hub office. We've got a couple of folks on the line with us. Carla Copes did a quick introduction at the beginning, but she is our new community engagement specialist. And so she'll be joining us for these and maybe a resource for you at different times. And then we also have Layla Coe, who is a summer intern that's working with us. And so this is just her second week with us. So glad to have her on board. Right. So thank you all so much.
Great stuff.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.